Welcome back to the Kirk Miller podcast. In today's episode, I am going to be unpacking 7 confidence killers that I believe are holding many entrepreneurs back right now. And there's zero judgment as I go through this episode, as every single one of them I have struggled with at some point, some for an extended period of time and some that have passed. But having coached so many successful, healthy, happy, high-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders, etc., there are certain patterns I've noticed, and there are certain traits I've noticed in people who operate with more confidence in their business, emotionally, mentally, as opposed to those that don't. So I'm going to share as concisely as I possibly can today what these 7 confidence killers are. I encourage you to listen to the end of this episode, as I think the last one is the most important. And I think all of us, if we've been really honest with ourselves, when you listen to that last point, have done that at some point, and it absolutely evaporates confidence. Just to protect your time, I have got some notes. So some of the points I'm going to read directly from my notes, just so I'm as clear and concise as possible to add context to some of these points. And then some will be just completely off the cuff. The first one is the fear of failure. The fear of failure, for me, holds people back from taking risks that potentially lead to greater success, a better version of themselves, maybe even a better body, but certainly a better businessman. I think if you are crippled by a fear of failure, you'll never take a chance on yourself. You'll never back yourself, and you're going to hit a plateau at some point in your business or with your body, or maybe another given area of your life. I know I was like this when I played football during certain periods during my career at Coventry. It was just the fear of making mistakes. It's just the fear of making mistakes. So maybe you wouldn't be brave enough to make that pass that might create a goal, or make that run that you might not get the ball for. So you play safe. And I think the same things have happened to me at certain periods in business where you've dwelled for too long. You sort of know that you want to do something that might take you to another level, but I've not just been brave enough to do it in that given moment. And remember, success loves speed. And I don't think I'm yet to coach someone who is really, really successful, who is also in great shape, who hasn't multiple times embraced failure. Literally, also embrace the fear of failure, sorry. So ask yourself right now, what opportunities could you have, or what progress could you have, whether it's in business, health, or any area of life, if you are willing to fail in one of these areas? Think about how many times you have gone to another level in your career, maybe with your body, maybe something in the gym, because you literally had to risk failing and not doing something, not succeeding, not being good at something. It's the same thing as embracing discomfort. But don't let the fear of failure cripple you, because you cannot live with optimal confidence if you're constantly worried about making a mistake. Someone else will take that opportunity. Someone else will have that body if you're not prepared to just risk not succeeding. Look at the upside more. Secondly, imposter syndrome. This is particularly prevalent, I believe, if you have built a successful business or come into more wealth in your career in some capacity, having previously not had money. Maybe you were brought up in a poor background. Maybe your parents didn't have money. Maybe your parents or the people around you weren't very aspirational. Maybe it was a bit of a struggle to do nice things, buy nice things. Now all of a sudden you're successful, or a lot more successful than what you were. And there is this constant anxiety that you will fall backwards if you don't continually portray external success. I'm going to say this a few times on this episode. It's absolutely exhausting if you are constantly trying to keep up with the external perception of success that maybe you're presenting to the world right now in your business, with your bank balance and the things you have and the things you do. You'll constantly have this anxiety that you're not enough, that you've got to do more, that you've got to work longer, that you've got to put other people first. But what is that costing you? It will 100% limit your personal and professional growth. Thirdly, this is probably one of the biggest ones that I certainly struggle with for many years. And every now and then the little devil wants to come back. And that is perfectionism paralysis. The pressure to be perfect, or the bullshit internal expectation you've created that you need to be perfect to succeed or maybe even start, consistently leads to inaction. I believe it's one of the biggest flaws in the modern entrepreneur, trying to be perfect. Certainly when it comes to having optimal health and a world-class body you are proud of, and the confidence that comes with that. A lot of people have never achieved or sustained that because they're trying to be perfect. It does not work, especially when you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. And as I'll come on to one of my other points, you have a business to run, people to manage, perhaps married with children, just to throw into the mixer. Again, it's absolutely exhausting if you are trying to be perfect. And as entrepreneurs and business owners, of course, you need to have exceptional standards and be consistent. And if you're anything like me, you probably have a constant state of improvement mentality, certainly when it comes to your business. You want to over-deliver for your clients. You want to constantly be better. You want to try and make sure you're at the front of the pack in your industry or given niche. But if you're trying to be perfect, one, you'll never start certain things. Two, you'll never sustain certain things. And three, I believe perfection paralysis is one of the biggest causes of self-sabotage. The fuck it mentality. If you can't do something perfect, you don't do it at all. For me, it's the biggest form of insecurity. And again, the zero judgment, because I've been that guy. If you're constantly saying to yourself, I need to wait for the perfect conditions, I need to be perfect in order to maybe be self-accepted, be a success, you'll constantly be growing into pain and anxiety and insecurity. No one's perfect. I put on one of my posts the other week when it was my birthday. I've been fortunate enough to coach and be mentored by some absolute monsters in business who on the front end are very, very polished individuals. They have a lot of money. They have a life that a lot of people would aspire to have and live with. But every single one of them has a chink in their armor, whether it's around their health, whether it's around a certain habit they can't control themselves with, or a certain temperament, an emotional trait they just don't have control with. No one's perfect. So ask yourself right now, what are you putting off because you are trying to be too perfect? And how much confidence is that costing you? What opportunities is that preventing you from maybe having? It stalls progression. Number 4, overthinking and self-doubt. High-performing individuals often overanalyze decisions, doubting themselves at every turn. This indecision not only delays success, but destroys self-belief over time. Ask yourself right now, how many times in a day do you overthink and doubt yourself? What's the benefit of overthinking that much and doubting yourself? How can you change the meaning? How can you change the feeling of self-doubt to an opportunity? For me, a great reframe, if you are feeling self-doubt about anything really, the moment that feeling of self-doubt comes, embrace it, sit with it, then ask yourself, what could this really mean? What is this feeling guiding me to do? Or what is this feeling potentially give me as feedback to reach out to someone who can help me overcome this self-doubt? For me, action kills anxiety and self-doubt. If you're feeling self-doubt, usually it's because you're not doing something consistently, you're not doing something to a higher standard, or you're not taking an action that you know deep down you should be doing. It's usually when we're playing safe, we're playing small, and we're doing things that are just ticking a box rather than being purposeful in terms of moving us forward. How many times have you been overthinking a certain situation and you've just did something to take action? You've just done the smallest thing, and all of a sudden that feeling of self-doubt and horrible, shitty feeling of that you're overthinking rapidly evaporates. Number 5, I think we've all done this. I know I've done this in football. I've done it in business. I've done it with body. When I was in the fitness industry, fitness modeling a lot more, front covers. And that is negative comparisons. Constantly measuring yourself against other entrepreneurs who perhaps have been in business longer or made more money than you, have a great reputation and brand than you right now. And maybe other people that you know, follow, listen to, that have a better body, are stronger than you, fitter than you, faster than you, perhaps have a physical identity that you would love to have. Like, the reality is there's always going to be someone out there with more money, further ahead in business, a better body, stronger, faster, maybe with a life that you want, but you are simply working towards right now. But negative comparisons are a guaranteed way of never truly living with the confidence that you know in your heart you want to live with. If you are constantly putting people above you, then in that moment you're telling yourself you are not enough, they are better than me. And you will shrink. You will not say things when you really want to if you're continually putting people on a pedestal and you're comparing yourself. Especially now when there are so many opportunities on social media and public forums and media platforms that continually paint success or some guru preaching. I mean, even this podcast now, I want to make sure that I'm not coming across as preaching here. I just really, really want to how can I explain it? I really want to hammer home the importance of stop comparing yourself to other people. It is not only a confidence killer, but it's one of the number one things that's going to slow you down from being content with the process, being present along your journey in business and with body. Stop comparing. Feeling less is one of the most disempowering emotions, thoughts, and feelings that we can have that serves no purpose. As I've said on one of the other points, every single person has something, as in a chink in their armor that you didn't realize they have. Everyone on social media wears their best suit. Most people in public will tell you everything about what's going well, but behind closed doors, everyone has some form of shit that they just struggle to deal with from time to time, or a habit or a feeling or a trauma in some way that just every now and then bites them in the ass. Everyone has insecurities. Everyone puts on a mask at work in some way. Everyone puts on a mask in public. So stop comparing yourself. Instead of focusing on what you don't have that someone else might have, try and stay centered to what you do have what your superpowers are, where you feel really, really confident right now, and ask yourself what has created that confidence. And I guarantee it's what you do, the words you say to yourself, and action. Number 6, I've said this many, many times before, but it's a point I really want to hammer home. I think one of the fastest ways you can get an immediate injection of confidence is keeping your promises to yourself. Even right now, as you listen to this or watch this, what is something that you know you should be doing, but you don't follow through with? It might be something in business, might be a project or a task or a call that you've been putting off. With health, what have you been putting off? What are you not doing that you keep saying you're going to do? Is it the session at 6 a.m.? Is it eating better food 6 days a week? Is it going to bed at 10:30 as opposed to 11:30, 12? Is it not having 10 drinks and maybe 2 drinks at the weekend? Whatever it is that you keep saying you're going to do, but not follow through, challenge yourself right now to just set an intention that you have been putting off and then follow through on it. The greatest confidence builder is keeping your promises to yourself. If I was to ask you right now, tell me an area of your life you feel really, really confident with and why. I can almost guarantee it's because in that area, you would have set many milestones that required action and sticking to a plan and following through. For many people listening to this, it's going to be in business, in career. You set a target, whether it's financial or a certain position or a certain business or project, and then you did whatever it took to meet that target. But it's a definitive way of you keeping your promises to yourself. And you haven't developed confidence by chance in that area. You've built it by what you do, not what you said you will do. Lastly, don't pretend to be someone you're not. It's absolutely exhausting trying to be someone you're not. Trying to paint this perfect perception on the exterior that you are a certain person that deep down in your heart, you know you're not. I think we've all done this at some point. I've done it in my fitness career when I was sort of fitness modeling. There were many periods where I think I was trying to be, in snippets, a stereotypical fitness model who really wanted to have the most shredded physique that would rival people on stage. Yes, of course, I love being lean and ripped and in shape year round, but I think the times I, believe it or not, lacked confidence was when I tried to push things too far, maybe for a shoot. And I remember one example where it was the first time I'd actually done a 12-week hardcore prep. Even though I was in shape at the start of it, I said to myself, I'm going to do 12 weeks militant, literally eating like a competitive fitness model who was stepping on a stage, or those classic shows. I remember just thinking, right, I'm going to try and be as strict as them, as ripped as them, even though I had no desire to step on a stage. This was for about a 2-hour photo shoot. So for 12 weeks, I literally lived and breathed their lifestyle. When previous to that, I was the guy that always made sure I had a relaxed meal or 2 at the weekend. I might have a drink or 10, at weekends, because that's what I enjoyed to do around having ruthless structure in my training. And I was still in shape. I still felt good and I was happier. During that 12 weeks, by trying to blend in with the crowd, I might have looked 0.5% more ripped for the shoot, but I was miserable because I wasn't being congruent with who I am at my core. I was trying to do something that I believe was based on what I thought others maybe perceived I should look like and do, as opposed to what I like to do and how I like to live. That's just a small example. So on the front end, I'm presenting this unbelievable physique. I'm even more ripped than usual. But to the eye, most people maybe wouldn't have even noticed. But for 3 months, I was miserable because, I didn't have the same confidence, because even when I done the 12-week shoot, there were still other people out there who were more ripped, had more muscle. So it ties in with my earlier point. There's always someone out there that is going to be a step ahead in an area that you're not that bothered about being a step ahead. Whatever you look for, you'll find. So that's why one of the biggest things that's going to build internal confidence is being totally at peace with who you are. And you can only be at peace with who you are if you're telling yourself the truth. How do I like to live? How healthy do I want to be? How strong do I want to be? What does my ideal week look like? Am I living incongruent with the person I'm trying to become and my biggest value to other people? You have to tell yourself the truth. And so many people, and I'll relate this to business, because they have come from no money or not as much money as what they have now, I genuinely think people forget why they started. And in entrepreneurship, we're always going to be shifting the bar on what success looks like. We're always going to be shifting the bar on how much money we want. But make sure you're doing that from a place of 100% transparency, that this is what you want, how you want to live, and it doesn't contradict the person you're trying to become. Because I've seen it over and over again in people I've coached. Multi-millionaires who have this life that other people would maybe dream to have, because they got the cars, they got the house, they go on the holidays, they can buy and do whatever they want. But these people sometimes are so tired because they've forgot who they are along the way. And we have countless examples in global superstars who've committed suicide because it was just exhausting, because they lacked purpose. They forgot how they wanted to live, and they weren't at peace with who they are. Their expectation of how their life should be in comparison to how their life actually is. When that gap's too far and you don't believe you've got the power to change either how your life is and how you want your life to be, that's when people drastically fall into depression. So I know I'm veering off here, but just please look at yourself every day and say, am I being 100% me? Because I promise you, you'll attract the right partners, the right friends, the right clients, the right team members, the right opportunities. And even if you don't from time to time, and you attract a bad egg or a bad situation, or something goes wrong, but you're 100% you, then that lesson, that person was put in your life to keep you sharp, to remind you of what you wouldn't tolerate and what you would tolerate, and who you like to be around and who you don't like to be around. I just wanted to end with a question as well, which might help you. In moments of indecision, moments of overthinking, self-doubt, moments of putting people on a pedestal potentially, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, ask yourself the question, why am I doing this? Whenever you are trying to do something or thinking of doing something, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you tell yourself the truth in that given moment, and the reason you are doing that is aligned to your values, it's aligned to who you are at your best and happiest and most content, and it's good for you, good for other people, and then you take action on that, That's where the magic happens when it comes to building confidence. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.